To the May 8, 2018 meeting of the Hendersonville Board of Mayor and Aldermen. We're going to begin this meeting as we typically do. That's with a prayer and a pledge. And tonight I'm going to ask Pastor Les Stratton of Rockland Baptist Church to lead us off. Pastor Stratton.
Let us pray. Dear God, our Father, we are so grateful for this day and for the bountiful blessings of life itself. We thank you for this assembly of not only, oh God, those elected officials, but those of us who live and serve in this community. Bless your blessings now upon the business that will be discussed tonight. We pray that you would give us wisdom and guidance and direction, that as we, oh God, are servants not only of this community, of this city, but of the citizenship, oh God, that lives in this city, the things would be done that would be pleasing in thy sight. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Pastor Stratton, again with Rockland Baptist Church. We appreciate what you do. We appreciate what your church does, and you do wonderful things for our community. Thank you so much. Now, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I now entertain a motion to accept our agenda, and I'd like to make one change. We have a motion. Mark. I need a second for the agenda, please.
Second. Oh, wait a minute. I have a...
You can still second it and offer a change. Okay. Change I would like to make is on the second page under other agenda items. Let's add B, and that will be confirmation of Codes Director Brian Washko. And I sent you all an email, and you're going to get some information on that as well. I'll make that motion. We add it to the agenda. We have a second. All in favor of adding that as item B under other agenda items, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. Alderman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to add item A, because it wasn't officially gone through a committee, but it's more or less a housekeeping.
Okay.
It's first reading of ordinance 2018-19, an ordinance amended budget ordinance 2017-23 by appropriating general funds in the amount not to exceed $2,900,000 for land acquisition.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of officially adding item A, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. Any other requests to make additions or changes to the agenda? All those in favor of accepting the agenda as amended, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Next, I want to ask a couple people. First, if I could have Steve Mills join me. Oh, excuse me, John. Steve, thanks for joining me. Building Safety Month is May. I want to read a couple of things here. Whereas our city's efforts to address the critical issues of safety, energy efficiency, and sustainability in the built environment that affect our citizens both in everyday life and in times of natural disaster give us confidence that our structures are safe and sound. And whereas each year in observance of Building Safety Month, Americans are asked to consider projects to improve building safety and sustainability at home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential service provided to all of us by local and state building departments and federal agencies in protecting the lives of property. And whereas Steve Mills has been with us for a little while. I, Jamie Clary, Mayor of the City of Hendersonville, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2018 as Building Safety Month. Accordingly, I encourage our citizens to join with their communities in participating in Building Safety Month activities. Steve, this is for you. Steve is leaving us June 12th. After 46 years.
Wow.
I think, Want to say anything? I know you weren't prepared to say much, but I think a lot of people would like to hear from you. Okay, go ahead.
I think one of the things that I would like to mention is that we all hear about ISO as it relates to fire protection and ratings, but I'd like to also mention to you that our community has been recently awarded a ISO rating for building code enforcement of a Class 2, which is there's only 5% or less jurisdictions across the country that have achieved that, and none in Tennessee other than your city, city of Hendersonville. And that's done not by my actions, but by the staff and that I have and the support this board has continually offered my department.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Steve. Very much appreciate. We can't say thanks enough for what you've done in 46 years. Next, I have a proclamation for public works services provided in our community that are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives, and the support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs such as stormwater, streets and highways, public buildings, and solid waste collection. And whereas the health and safety and comfort of this community greatly depend on these facilities and services, and the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff public works departments, such as ours, is materially influenced by the people's attitude and understanding of the importance of the work they perform. I, Jamie Clary, Mayor of the City of Hendersonville, do proclaim May 20th through 26th, 2018 as National Public Works Week, and I call upon our citizens and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with the issues involved in providing our public works services and to recognize the contributions which public works employees and officials make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life. I add one more thing. The VFW last year recognized our public works staff for the safety that they provide for this city. And it's very important to not just think that they're out there, that public works is about building things or tearing things down. It's also about keeping us safe. There's no doubt about that. So, Chip, I very much appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Appreciate
You want to say anything? Okay, go ahead.
As Public Works Director, I want to thank this board and the mayor for giving us the resources so that we can keep you safe. That's our paramount duty. And I also want to thank the citizens to their patience and understanding as we are, sometimes stopping traffic and keeping them from getting to places on time. But we are working diligently, and we look forward to doing more in the coming years. Thank you.
Thank you. Looking for police officers. I was really looking for Chief Miller, but why don't y'all come up here? Whereas the Congress of the United States has designated the week of May 13th through 19th to be dedicated as National Police Week, and May 15th of this year to be Police Memorial Day, and whereas law enforcement officers are our guardians of life and property, defenders of the individual right to be free people, warriors of the war against crime, and dedicated to the preservation of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Whereas the City of Hendersonville desires to honor the valor, service, and dedication of its police officers. I, Jamie Clary, Mayor of the City of Hendersonville, do proclaim May 15, 2018 Police Memorial Day, and call upon all our citizens of this community to honor and show our sincere appreciation for the police officers of this city by deed, remark, and attitude, and express their thanks to our police officers who are willing to sacrifice their lives, if necessary, to guard our loved ones, property, and government against all those who would violate the law, and further request that all flags of the City of Hendersonville be flown at half-staff on May 15th in recognition of Police Memorial Day. And honestly, I hope that you would thank our police officers every day, not just on May 15th. So, Commander Rogan, I appreciate you being here and being nearby. We have several other police officers, some of them still in a meeting right there. We have a Police Memorial Day service.
14th.
Okay, can you...
I'd like to invite everybody to the Hendersonville's Police Memorial Service at the Church of Christ on Rockland Road, Monday, May 14th at 6 o'clock.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you. I've got to give you this. There you go. Thank you. Now something that you only get to do once a century or so. Alice and who else to start?
Pastor Stratton.
Okay. Okay.
That'll be good.
Okay.
Our senior members.
Okay.
Our senior
Okay.
Those
I'll let y'all introduce folks, and then you want to read that?
well, sure, I can.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Alice Stratton, member of...
No, Al Spicer.
Spicer, I'm sorry. Pastor
Reverend
Stratton. Al Spicer, longtime member of Rockland Missionary Baptist Church. Mark Skidmore, alderman for that area, as well as a member of that church, and several other folks. And I'm going to step aside, and Alice, I'm going to let you go through.
Okay.
Or Elizabeth.
This is our Deacon Tally,
Okay.
Sister Elizabeth Wallace, and also Sister Martha Woods. They're our oldest members. I believe Sister Woods is our oldest member. And also,
I'm not the oldest.
no, you're not the oldest. Also, our chairperson for the 150th Joan anniversary, Joan Hurst, and our chairperson for the publicity committee is Reverend John Hurst, and also Sister Irene Kercheval and Deacon Robert Spicer. That's the deacon that advisor for it.
He was ordained when?
He was ordained who?
Elizabeth's
Which-
brother,
1955.
Yeah.
1955.
That's a little bit before our time.
It was.
And
Just a
Mark is
tad.
also one of our members.
Yeah. But, yeah, I do. I just want to say a couple of things that I appreciate, Mayor, you doing this for allowing me to have this.
Absolutely.
Have this. It's an honor to you all because my family has a special place in our hearts for I always call it the Rock, but at Rockland Missionary, I know at times when you need a place to go and you feel like that there are times in your life that you're the only one, and it's just you against whatever problems that you may have. I always knew that the Rock was my place, and you all are still in our hearts and our family, and I just want to appreciate and congratulate you on 150 years because that's a mighty long time. That's a mighty long time. And I'm looking forward to the next 150 years down the road. So I may not be here in body, but I'll be there in spirit. So we have a proclamation this evening for the Rockland Missionary Baptist Church, and it reads as such, as whereas the Rockland Missionary Baptist Church was organized on November 25th of 1868. Now think of that, 1868. When the property was purchased at the price of $125 and it was registered with the state of Tennessee on January 10th of 1872. And whereas the first church service was held in a dwelling house, and then in 1880 the building was erected and used as a place of worship and a school. And whereas the several years of the building collapse suffered partial fires and was rebuilt times before new modern building was even constructed in 1914 and still stands, although it has been remodeled on several occasions, and whereas the church is rich in history and blessed with many devoted pastors, and again in 1997 when Pastor Leslie Stratton came to Rockland as the new pastor and leader, and whereas the church's mission statement is, through Christ-centered ministries, we desire to be distinguished as a church with the underlying concern for individuals, and through their faith and patience, and on October 2009, they were blessed with a new worship center. Now, therefore, Jamie Clary, the mayor of our city of Hendersonville, do congratulate and thank Pastor Stratton and all the congregation of Rockland Missionary Baptist Church for their devotion to faith, spirit, and Christ-centered ministries, and for being blessing to our community and a living example of God's Word. So thank you again tonight, and I appreciate that so much. And Pastor Stratton, is it okay if Pastor Stratton say a few words with that?
Please.
We appreciate y'all.
And please mention the celebration you have coming up in 2 weeks.
Yes.
On behalf of the Rockland Baptist Church family and the entire congregation, we accept this proclamation in the spirit in which it is given. We thank you for recognizing us. We praise God for giving us the opportunity to not only be a congregation in this community almost 150 years, but we are so honored to still be relevant in this community. And we just thank God for you and the work that you're doing in the city. We invite all of you to join us. This year we've got a year-long celebration. Next week, The Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, my dates are gone. We'll do a revival at 7 o'clock each night. The 20th, which is next Sunday, we will do our 150th homecoming. We have service at 9:30 and an evening service at 2. And we will celebrate 150 years to the T, the Lord's will, November 25th, 2018, with a service capstoning our founders and 150 years of ministry in this community. So thank you again on behalf of not only these, our senior members, these other members that are here. Stand up very quickly, wave your hand. Would you pause
One thing. I would just like to say, since the inception of this church in 1868, these three are descendants of those pioneer families. It's amazing. Thank you. And they're all siblings.
Brothers and sisters,
We appreciate y'all. See you a week from Sunday.
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you all.
Let me get a hug from Ms. Spicer right
Take
there.
them out. Y'all
See you.
go right on out.
Hope you can join us. Dawn.
Thank you, Alderman Skidmore. Next, I need to introduce Mauricio Sanchez and Scott Waiteka. And Scott has won the Music City Marathon so many times, I now know how to spell his last name. So if y'all could step up here a little bit. First, congratulations to Scott, and also thank you to both of them on what they're about to tell us a little bit about. Mauricio, if you want to go first, I think that'd be helpful.
I can.
Okay?
Thank you. Good evening. I appreciate y'all having me here tonight. I got a call about 3-4 months ago from Mayor Clary. He said, I have a bright idea. He goes, tell me. I said, is there a way that we can take all these races that we have in Hendersonville, put them together, and help promote each other, help promote the city, bring people to our city? And I go, you know, funny thing you say that because I've been working on something similar for the last 4 years, so yeah, it's a great idea, right? So what we did, after talking with him and a few of the other race directors, we decided that we would put 4 of the races together, and we've created the Hendersonville Race Series. We start with the Memorial Day Classic, which is coming up, which you're all welcome to come and join us. Then we have the Hendersonville Half Marathon, which is going on its 3rd year. That is September 22nd. Then we have the Indian Lake Loop, which is on Thanksgiving Day, 5K and 5 miles. And then to close out the year, we have the Frostbite 5K, 10K, something like that. Okay, so we decided that we're going to group them together and try to get an incentive to the runners to run multiple races. If you run 3, you get a prize. If you run all 4, you get a different prize, right? Idea behind that is twofold. First of all, we want to, ideally, our goal, our ultimate goal is to promote health and fitness in Hendersonville. We want to get Hendersonville moving. We want to get everybody involved. All the races have different distances that can accommodate anybody and everybody. You probably have seen that starting about this time of year, there's a race somewhere in Hendersonville every weekend. There's numerous 5Ks. We're trying to figure a way to get them involved as well, because there's so many of them, we haven't figured that out yet. We're going to get started with the 4 and then take it from there, okay? We want to promote the city. We want to promote people to come to spend their money in our city. We're working with the chamber, and we're working with Sumner Tourism to help us promote the races outside our city. I'm a little bit involved in running, and who's laughing over there? And I have contacts, and I know people all over the Middle Tennessee area and all the different running groups, so I'm promoting the races all over Middle Tennessee. We also have a big name that can help us with that promotion. I hear that he's won the country music, what is it called now, country music marathon, whatever. He won it so many times that they're considering changing the name. Anyway, that's what we want to do, okay? We want to, first of all, we want to promote health and fitness in our city. Eventually, what we also want to do is take the message to everybody. We want to take the message to schools. We want to take the message to the senior centers. We want to get everybody involved. You know, when we talk about racing and running, everybody thinks that you really have to race and run, but you really don't. You know, you can go out there and walk. Most of this, if not all these races, they'll take walkers. They'll take people who can, you know, skip or chug or crawl or do whatever. We just want people moving. And the second, obviously, is to bring people to our city. So that's our goal. This is our first year. We have, in order to be considered for the prizes, for the awards that we give, you have to register for the series. It's a $10 registration. But once you register for that, then we can keep track of how many races you have participated in. And at the end of the year, then we'll award the prizes. We have over 50 people already, and registration has only been open up about 3 weeks. So there's big interest. So that's what I have. Appreciate y'all's time. Help us spread the word. If you see, you know, I'm all over. I'm posting this everywhere on social media. Every page I can get my hands on, all the different neighborhoods pages, the Hendersonville pages, the Hendersonville Chamber of Commerce is helping, Sumner Tourism is helping. So let's get the word out and let's get everybody involved. Let's get Hendersonville moving.
Mauricio, thank you. Coach Wojtek.
Something else I love about this is in the past, if I wanted new running shoes, I go to Nashville. Now we have a Fleet Feet in here in Hendersonville, so I don't need to do that anymore. And if I wanted a good distance run, I go to Shelby Bottoms or Percy Warner Park. But now in Hendersonville and Sumner County in general, we're extending the greenways. We're always building new greenways, so that's here as well. And in the past, I've gone to Nashville for a lot of races, and sometimes I do that marathon thing. But now we're the Hendersonville races are all organizing together, and that's something we can stay here and do. And like Mauricio said, bring outsiders into our city so they see what we have to offer, as well as spend their money, which is always an added bonus. And especially as a wellness teacher and cross-country coach and a runner myself, that's something that I'm passionate about. I like seeing kids involved. I like seeing adults involved. So many of my runners have adults who run, and that's how they got started, because kids kind of mimic what they see other people do. And kind of the reverse is true. I've had so many kids who came from homes where nobody was physically active, and they started running, and then they got their parents involved. So it's a win-win for everybody. The community gets more healthy financially. Community gets more healthy, I guess, health-wise, you'd say. But yeah, and something else I was asked to talk about is youth fitness is really passionate for me. I'm the coach at Beach High School this year, but in the past and now I have a group called the Music City Super Squad. I've had to go to elementary only because I coach middle school now. I can't train the enemies. But it's a youth running club to kind of get more people involved. I've been kind of surprised with the amount of kids we have and just the scope. I have a kid that comes over from Westmoreland every week to come run with us. And it's just my passion is to see kids become involved, they become more healthy, and then hopefully in turn their parents become more healthy as well. And I'm really excited about this race series. I've never seen a group so organized that has this. Nashville has lots of races, but they don't have this unity that we have, and I think that's going to give us a step up on them. It's really going to grow and change the community, and we're all excited about it. Thank you.
Scott, I got to tell you, it's great seeing the publicity that you get. And I love the fact all the time, Hendersonville resident Scott Wojtek. So you're giving us great publicity. We really appreciate that.
Pleasure.
Will you take a question?
Oh, yeah. Sure. Yeah. Okay. I like how you and Wilcock match. That's kind of cute.
Yeah. First of all, congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Your kids were not right. You can still do it. Here's the question. I'm probably the only person in the room or in this city that wants to know. When you're going through the process of, I need to go, and, the porta potties are up around the corner, do you try to pace yourself to get that much farther ahead of the guy? Do you just take the chance and go? I've got to know what your thought
There was a little bit of
process is.
strategy involved.
Okay, that's what I want to know, your strategy going to the bathroom.
I mean, if
when
you
you're
hold it for
running
19 miles, it's going to be a long time in there. So I want to get far enough ahead where I can go and not feel rushed. But I also wanted to. I'm about tore an ab muscle trying to get out of there. But I also wanted to pop out so he can maybe sees me up ahead and he thinks, hey, he's dying, rather than he just lost 5 pounds in the poor John. But yeah, I guess there's always strategy involved. You got to know when to show your cards and when to kind of hide them.
There you go. Thank you.
I unfortunately don't have the authority to edit any of that. Appreciate that, Coach.
The community wants to know the answer.
Some of you may have seen a picture that Steve is sort of referring to. So yeah. Next up, we have a public hearing, and this is coming from a request from Vassland Development Partnership. We've got several people signed up, but what I've asked them to do is I've asked them to do a presentation first instead of waiting and doing the presentation later. I've asked them to do the presentation first, and then we'll have the public hearing as part of that. But I want to let you know that they have asked that this be deferred. We are going to take comments. If folks want to comment tonight, you're welcome to come back in 2 weeks and comment as well. The idea that they provided to me was that they would like to take your thoughts and try to implement those or consider those in the next 2 weeks before they come back in first reading. So, again, they've asked for it to be deferred. You can speak tonight. You can speak in 2 weeks. You can speak both. If you signed up, we'll allow you to speak tonight, and we still have 2 weeks. So if you want to go ahead and give us a presentation, and then the folks who have signed up for the public hearing, I'll call your names in just a minute. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Mary Clary. My name is Ken Renner. I am with Vassland Companies, and we are proposing this Glenbrook Village development on 25 acres on the west side of the current shopping center. As Mayor Clary noted, it is our intention to request a deferral for 2 weeks so that we can address any comments that come tonight from the public or from members of the board. Also, we're hoping our sponsor will be back in 2 weeks as well, which would be helpful for us. I think all of you are aware that we were here last fall with an initial proposal on this project. We heard some questions raised. We heard some legitimate concerns that were raised. And we have tried to use the time since that presentation to address those issues and improve this project for resubmission. First, we heard that some people were concerned, even some of the board members, that the project was too dense. That there was too much density. We went back and put a pencil to it, and we were able to reduce the density by 10%, the residential density. So there are less than 300 dwelling units in the development currently, rather than 300 plus the last time. Mayor Clary, we responded to a concern that you had raised the last time about the loss of some of the sales tax revenue by reducing the amount of retail space that would be in the development. And since that time, we have increased the retail space by about 6% to about 73,000 square feet of retail. These changes give us a 17% reduction in traffic from what our current plan would generate, and about a 5% reduction in peak hour traffic. So I think we're moving in the right direction there. These changes also improve the amount of revenue that this project will provide to the city. When fully developed, we estimate it will provide about $550,000 per year in sales and property tax revenue to the city of Hendersonville, and about $483,000 in revenue to Sumner County. Just as important for us, as I mentioned, we own the Glenbrook Shopping Center, and we know that there is a tough retail environment out there right now, especially for the big box retailers. Several have come to us and said, wow, we really need this project. We need the additional rooftops to generate additional business, because without those people, there's going to be a substantial drop-off in sales tax revenue to the city. So we're hoping this will help support the shopping center as well as to provide some new options for housing. One other point I'd like to make, Mr. Brown, we have incorporated also, I know you were helpful last time in proposing some amendments to the plan. You helped us work out one on the phasing, which is now incorporated in the current plan that we've submitted. I think we have also included the additional money that we said we were going to contribute to the city for infrastructure improvements, in addition to the roughly $700,000 that we'll be spending to expand Forest Retreat Road and to replace an existing box culvert there. Now I'd like to introduce our chief planner, Jeff Hines, who will kind of take you through a little bit more of the detail of the plan and answer questions with me.
Thank you. Good evening. As Ken mentioned, Jeff Hines with Catalyst Design Group. The points I'm going to share with you are kind of my perspective from a planning doctrine standpoint on this project. And truthfully, I believe it's a better plan than what the final development plan from 2005 shared. And part of that is today's thinking of how planning is done better in blending mixed uses together, and the benefits of that in terms of being able to live, being able to work, being able to shop in proximal relationship to one another and minimize trips on your arterial streets. Certainly the housing typology offered in this development is something that Hendersonville needs and does not have. It's townhomes, condominiums that, serve empty nesters that want to downsize and prefer a lock and leave type lifestyle. It serves young professionals hitting a price point that is below a single family home. The live-work units are something Hendersonville does not have in terms of having your office space or a small art gallery if you're an artist and living up above that little shop space. So all of those things, excuse me, are unique in this project. It's a better plan because also it provides better transition to the residential uses to the west. The current final development plan allows 184,000 square feet with big box stores or strip centers within basically 50 feet, of the western property line. This certainly breaks the massing of those structures up and has a residential use along there, along with landscaping buffers, trails, dog parks, community gardens, all of those green spaces being integrated. This is also a mixed use in the sense that really Indian Lakes is not, which is more horizontal. There's all the uses there, but they aren't integrated vertically in terms of the architecture. They aren't integrated just in terms of a block pattern from one block to another. It's more of you have commercial and you have rings of residential and other uses around it. So all that being said, I think it's my belief from looking at this on a planning side, it addresses many things better just because the knowledge of 2005 versus today is a little bit different on how we plan these communities. The Planning Commission overwhelmingly had great things to say, and I just share that with you because they may have seen more visuals and such. I know you have the pattern book in your packet, and hopefully you've looked at that. It is up on the drive if we have any questions, and we can call up pages and talk through it. But this is kind of modeled on a Berry Farms style development, a West Haven style development, developments that are more seen in Franklin and Williamson County area, but really are a lifestyle and are very desired to live in. Secondly, the perspective I'd like to offer is if you believe in smart growth principles that a lot of communities are certainly compelling development and developers to look at, they believe in infilling areas with uses such as this so that you, once again, have infill residential in these types of units, townhomes and such, in areas that are by arterial roadways, that are by shopping, that are close to, so somebody could ride a bike to the hospital if it were a nurse living in one of these units. That's why this site makes a lot of sense in terms of mixing and blending a commercial use, an office use, in terms of some of the live-work units and a residential use. And lastly, I'll just share that, and Ken mentioned it, the traffic side of this planning is once again something I always, when we talk about mixed use, basically on average, and it depends on your different residential units, but residential homes generate between 5.5 trips per day on a smaller townhome condo to about 10 on a single-family home, larger one. And if you think of that, and if you have two folks living in that residence, the maximum is basically 4 of those trips are to work in the morning. If there's 2 separate people, they have 2 separate cars and 2 home. The other trips are generally to pick up convenience retail, to go to the grocery, to get your dry cleaned, to take kids to soccer practice. The more that we can integrate some of those uses close by the location of the residence provides an opportunity for someone to hop on their bike, to walk. As things go by, instead of hopping in the car, you look at it as an opportunity to get your mile of walking in that day each way. So I think it's a different way to think about it, but this does fit that profile of smart growth and principles in terms of how you cite mixed use. And with that, I think I'll certainly answer any questions if there's any about the plan.
You have to wait for that.
Fair enough.
Okay. Next, in this public hearing, Len Janneman, High Point Acreage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Len Janneman, 114 High Point Anchorage. My only request is don't let Mr. Brown ask me a question like the one he asked earlier. So, yeah. So, first of all, I'd like to say I'm here on behalf of myself, not any group or organization, just somebody concerned about the Glenbrook development. This is a project that I think at the right place and the right time would actually be an addition to our city. I don't think this is the right place and the right time. One of our sons moved to Austin, Texas, right out of college, and we looked at places like this with him, bigger scale, and they were very, very popular with the 20-something set. But the place we looked at actually had, they had their own exit right off the interstate, and there weren't any back entrances where people would be going through neighborhoods and little country roads. So I think, if you look at the growth and what's happening north of the bypass, the folks up there, as you know, deserve better roads than they have. And I'm willing to pay my fair share as a citizen to help those folks get those roads. What I would ask you to think about is deferring any decision, at least until your impact fee study is done. Because I think it also would be fair if the developers helped us invest in our infrastructure. And then it would be the right time. The other piece of that is, when we looked at the folks that lived in those kind of places in Austin, they would get in their car and drive probably a mile, no more, to Google and Apple and National Instruments, where our son works. And so they had jobs right there. We've hired an economic development director, which I think is a great idea. Why don't we give that a chance to work and bring in some big name companies so those 20-something people will actually work here? Today, I don't think they will. The people that are going to live in these $200,000 to $325,000 units are probably not going to be working in the retail centers. They're going to be jumping in the car, heading to the bypass like everybody else. So it's not the right time with the infrastructure we have. It's not the right time with the job situation we have here in Hendersonville. So as I tried to get a little information about what was going on, I went to the Planning Commission meeting on April 3rd, and I was actually amazed. That night, only 3 of the 9 or 10 commissioners actually asked any questions at all. And I was told that most of them only had their packets like 24 hours in advance. So how could they not have questions? It just kind of floored me. There were three people that asked questions, 2 of any detail. But one question they didn't ask that I hope that you asked, we hear the benefits, the tax benefit. But Mr. Mayor, I'd like to quote some of the numbers that you quoted last fall, I think, about how much we go in the hole for every house and every apartment that we build. If you look at 300 units, 297 units, we're talking $250,000 to $300,000 a year for incremental services above and beyond the property tax, using the numbers that the mayor gave us. Now, some folks have said maybe those numbers aren't right, and maybe so, but my question is, why aren't people asking what the right numbers are? Why didn't the Planning Commission ask that? And I hope you asked the same thing. When I heard the commissioners talk, a couple of them spoke in favor of it. One said, I love the fact that the bypass allows people to live here and go downstairs to work rather than jumping onto the bypass. And again, I'm not sure that's really what's going to happen. There are the work-live units. I think it's, 10% of the total. And my bet is half of those will be people that make an investment and buy it and live upstairs or rent the bottom out to some other business. So you have twice the amount of traffic, not less traffic. So I'm not sure that's actually happening. But my final point is that another commissioner spoke out in favor of it. And that commissioner said, and this is a quote, you can go look at the video, traffic is a nightmare no matter where you go. So I don't think this will be much of a problem. Now, let me read that again. Traffic is a nightmare no matter where you go, so I don't think that will be much of a problem. Now, these are the people that are supposed to be looking out ahead, planning for what's happening north of the bypass, trying to give those folks some infrastructure, and it just doesn't make sense. If you folks vote for this, you're just going to let the Planning Commission continue to do what they do without actually doing any planning. So I'd ask you tonight, I guess it's being deferred, I would ask that you not defer it 2 weeks. I'd ask you to defer it until after the study for impact fees comes back. Thank you very much.
Len, thank you. Len, thank you. Mr. McMullen, Pin Oak Drive.
Hello, Betsy McMullen, 105 Pin Oak Drive. I can put this on. I'm going to repeat several things probably that Len said, but hopefully there'll be some new ones. Talking about the Glenbrook development, and I think the city and the city in itself and the Board of Mayor and Aldermen have had in the past a mindset of, if there's land available, let's build on it, let's put houses on it, let's put something on it, let the city grow fast. We want to get things going. I think that's a mistake. I think, and this applies to all the citizens in Hendersonville, I think we're getting overcrowded. Not so we feel like this yet, but why build until we are sucked in? Every open space doesn't have to be developed. There's no reason that we can't grow slowly and have the infrastructure grow with us, rather than having us build, and then fight and drag and try and get the infrastructure to catch up. We need to have it flow like it should, with the infrastructure going along with the building. As far as Vastland is concerned, I have some concerns about Vastlands. There are so many...
Hold on, Mr. McMullen, hold on one second. Jeff, are you controlling this, or who's controlling?
Did I do something? Oh.
No. I got you. Okay. Okay, you're fine, Jeff. Sorry. Thank you, Michael. You were given a presentation you didn't know about.
Oh, well, I thought it was a nice background.
Okay.
It was good. It was good. Keep looking
Michael,
at it.
thank you. Ms. McMullen, go ahead.
The phases that Vassland talks about, the 4 phases they're talking about developing, very often developers get in there and develop 1 or 2 phases, and they haven't sold, and they haven't filled up. Then what do? What do they do about phase 3 and phase 4? Do they not get developed? Do they hang in there and develop them and leave them blank? Where do they put their money? That bothers me that it would go through to all 4 phases. I encourage you also to delay this till after the impact fee study comes back. We don't know that $700,000 is going to make a drop in the bucket to what this is going to cost in infrastructure. If the roads are, we all know they're a mess going out that way. And most of these people are going to be trying to get on the bypass or trying to go down Hunts Road. That's going to be a mess. So I ask you to hold off on this. Really, I'd like to hold off on it entirely, but at least until after the impact study comes back to tell us what we need per structure on that. And as far as Vassland is concerned, I understand we've had problems with them in the past. I don't know if it's all right to bring it up, but we have had problems with them in the past. And there's a saying, fool me once, shame on me, or shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Thank you.
Ms. McMullen, thank you. Stephen Puckett, 228 Sanders Ferry Road.
Thank you, Mayor. Name's Steve Puckett. I reside at 228 Sanders Ferry Road, Apartment 821, Hendersonville, Tennessee. First off, I want to actually thank the developers for seeking a deferment on this. I know there are a lot of questions that, I personally get, given that I happen to work in the area. And one of them actually relates to this live, work, play, where you have the resident living above the commercial. Because when some folks hear that, they think of their favorite Western movie of the old saloon where people lived upstairs and worked downstairs. And so there's questions of protections against illicit activities that could invite to our city. The other concern that a lot of times I've heard is that it seems that every time we have some sort of down zoning where we're moving from commercial to or from a higher density to a lower density, there's concerns of what they call hostile down zoning, where that higher zoning is kind of leveraged. And so there's, to address that, a lot of citizens, especially if they were hostile to the original zoning change, they don't feel like they got the value out of it. They try to claw back what they feel is the adequate value. And as a city, there's only limits you can go to. You guys can't flat out extort developers. But at the same time, the citizens that are in that mindset, they worry that the city's going to be extorted by developers. And so there's that balance that's in between that you always have to try to seek. And as a city, you're trying to work diligently on that. But in the end, in a downzoning situation, a lot of times it's up to the goodwill gestures that come from a developer. And, asking to defer to hear from the citizens is one of those type of gestures. With this particular issue, given the nature of the infrastructure issues, one of those goodwill gestures, a couple of those goodwill gestures could be, offering, the county health department land site in exchange for the county making improvements to the Hunts Lane Centerpoint corridor, or at least their portions of it. A traffic light in the Glenbrook Shopping Center, either at Panera's or Chick-fil-A, to address the direct traffic that's going to be going through that corridor. Because, as it was mentioned earlier, a lot of these young professionals, they're going to move in this area. They're going to probably have an art gallery as their hobby, their side business, and then they're still going to go to Nashville for their primary job. And so you have that, dual employment issue that comes up. And so that would, and most of them are most likely going to go through the shopping center because exit 6 will be much easier and direct route for them. And then, of course, the last thing is something the developer has already put forward, and that is monetary support for infrastructure that may not be directly related to the, that, and the thing is, it goes back to that perspective of if a person feels like this is, hostile downzoning or something like that, they're going to look at it from the original state. If it was originally, before it was zoned commercial, was originally agriculture, they're going to look at it from the original zoning of agriculture to what it is now and what they would expect out of it versus what it is now, this downzoning effect. And so it, monetary support might look very significant in a straight up, downzoning perspective from the current zoning, but from that original zoning, it might look like pocket change. And that's a significant change in perspective. And ultimately, relationships and trust between the developer and the community, not just the developer in the city, but the developer in the community is extremely important because developers oftentimes will get a little bit more leeway with the community if there's trust that the developer's looking out for the community and not just, putting on a show or anything like that. And then, of course, sensitivity to the community is important, especially in a case where the citizens are worried about a hostile downzoning, because that's one of the worst case scenarios that honestly a developer can walk into. It's also one of the worst case scenarios that because that means that a community may have experienced that in the past or have seen it in the past within their community. So with that, thank you.
Stephen, thank you. Kenneth Verbal, the landings.
Thank you, Mayor and Alderman. Kenneth Verbal, 110 The Landings. Lived in Hendersonville, and you've heard this enough time in the last 6 months, for 48 years. Some of you can remember in the old days that we started really between the developers and the citizens a relationship where we were partners because we really needed them. We were lucky if we had 2 hamburger stands in Hendersonville, one of them being Dairy Queen. And so the consequences are through the years, this partnership has grown to the point, though, where it is no longer a situation of equity between us being equal. It has grown to the point where the developer has 80% of the relationship where we actually have 20%. Now you're looking at, right here behind this mic, the cause of why that happened. Because the average citizen like me did not give the Board of Mayor and Aldermen the kind of support that it needed to bring this back to a parity. And I believe this is a monumental moment in this city's life where we can take this move and bring parity back in between the developers and the citizens. Because we need the developers, but we need it to be a level playing field. And I think if we can defer this until we get our impact fee studies, and that we can then also take a view of other communities around us and what their implementation of an impact fee has done, I believe we can bring that relationship back. Now, I know that this is a period of time, and this company, Vastlin, that they would sit and under their breath say, why me? Why is this a time? It is the time. That's all it is, because we are awakening. The social media that we are using today is way over my head. I'm 81 years old. You've heard that story enough. So the circumstances are, though, I do believe that as a city, we do have this monumental moment, and I think we can step up. You will have the citizens behind you. I can tell you strongly that when I'm in church and I'm walking around at First Baptist Church in the lobby, and I'll walk up to a little group of people and I'll say, what do you think the biggest problem that Hendersonville has today? And I will guarantee you what'll pop out of their mouth first is too much high-density housing, and that the taxpayer is really catching too much of this in the face. And so I'll just leave that with you. I think each one of you has an opportunity tonight to step up and listen to each other, and also within your heart, you know what I've just said is true, because the record proves it beyond any measure. Thank you so much.
Mr. Wirbel, thank you. Sharon Lovell, 103 Arrowhead. Sharon, did I pronounce your name correctly? Love All. Love All. How hard is that to pronounce? That's just very easy to say.
Now, thank you all very much. If I can ask, how many people are here that are actually for this project? Hands. Besides you guys. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the rest of you, I assume, are against it? Okay. I've got 2 stories, real quick. One is, if you remember when President Carter came back here, I think it was 1980, he was up for re-election. I had to be working where he was going to be speaking, so I had to be assigned a Secret Service agent. Excuse me. And he was very close-mouthed during the day, but after he got off duty and the president had left, we had a nice conversation. And I said, hey, did you vote for Carter? How do you like him? And he goes, I haven't voted for a president in 8 years. And I went, you're kidding, why? And he goes, because I'm with the president 24/7 for 8 years, and I see what really goes on. The president doesn't run the country. Big business does. My second story, going back up to present time, is I was a Nielsen home. I don't know if you know what that is, where the Nielsen ratings, you've heard about them, and I was chosen to be a Nielsen home, and all of my viewing habits were recorded for like 4 years. I called them yesterday. I was kind of curious. I said, what did that mean? What did I really do for you guys? And he goes, you represented 60,000 homes. And I started to think about how that relates to now, to tonight, is that I'm very disappointed that we didn't pack this place to be against this. But at the same time, if one household could represent 60,000 homes in the United States, I'm willing to bet that those of us who are against this, even though they didn't show up, for whatever reason they didn't show up, and I think part of it is apathy because big business runs the country. People think that their voice doesn't matter anymore. They don't feel that they have whatever they tell you guys to do as your constituents, you're not going to do it if it doesn't benefit you personally, or if you have any relationship with developers. The perception is that Hendersonville is run by developers, not by the constituents, not by the people. So I would just, and whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. I hope it's wrong, but it's the way the perception is. And if my one home could represent 60,000 homes with the Nielsen ratings, I bet every one of you here could represent at least 100 people that aren't here tonight that feel exactly the same way you do, possibly 200 people. I think that's a fair assessment. And just because they're not here packing this place to tell you vote against this, that we're tired of the high density and we're tired of the traffic, and I guarantee you there's not a nurse in town that's going to live there and ride their bike and feel safe with all the traffic and all the damage to the streets that are there. There is no way that's going to happen. Well, anyway, I think that we probably are representing each one of us that are here, 100 or 200 people that didn't make it, and they didn't make it because they didn't think you guys really care and are listening to them. Thank you.
Sharon, thank you. Dennis McGo. Dennis, your name is a little bit harder. Magoo, thank you. Victoria Lane East.
So my name is Dennis Magoo. I 146 Victoria Lane East. I moved here in 2006. Came to work for Dollar General. Lived in Houston, so I've seen big unplanned cities. I've experienced what happens there. So I'm glad we have a planning commission that actually looks forward to these things, but I'm going to echo all the same comments that have been made. I've been here since 2006. I live in Alexandria Place. There's a couple of homes closer, but I felt personally those developments, the impact on me, it went from a four-way stop to now it's a light. But where's that light defaulted to? It's not in my favor. It's in the apartment's favor. I come to a red light when I come to that. I wait, goes to a green light, 17 seconds I get to go through that intersection. There's mornings I invite you to come out. Traffic's backed up to the entrance of Alexandria Place. Why? Because it's defaulted in the direction of the people who got to fund the intersection. On the relationship that we've got, is the intersection and its construction and its the way that it's put together, is that put out by the developer or is that a city decision? The reason I ask that is we've got bricks in each one of those intersections. Anybody enjoy driving over those bricks every day? Okay, please get rid of them for the love of all that is holy. Because they look great. 6 months later, they drive like this. They're horrible. So please. The only other thing I would say is I read that Hunts Lane is not a consideration for expansion. Part of my job, I do computer network stuff, so I've got to think about the other way that people get out. Every day when I drive out from Alexandria Place, I get to the intersection before I even turn out. I know what 386 looks like. If there are cars going by, they're going down Hunts Lane. What do you think is going to happen when you add more people there? What are the people in Alexandria Place going to do? Where are they going to go? They're going to go out the back of you. Has that even been considered in this impact analysis? I'm going to guess not. Because those roads are 10 times worse than Hunts. You're going to have you have trees directly on the edge of the road. You're going to have accidents galore, and this development will force that. Because it's inevitable. You're going to have accidents on 386. They're going to happen. I've got other concerns related to this, crime, additional people that are in the area, the things that come with high density, but I don't have enough information yet just to form anything other than the traffic on this is going to be terrible, and it's not just going to be where the plans are to improve. They're going to go far beyond. So, thank you.
Dennis, thank you. Wes Ransom, Wessington Place.
Wesley Ransom, 171 Wessington Place, Hendersonville. I have a bit of a vested interest in speaking to you tonight about this development. I've been here, can't rival the gentleman that's 80-plus years old, but I have been in the same location for 35 years. My neighbors don't like that, but that's the truth. That's just the way it is. I'm going to approach this from a little different angle for you. Let's talk about problems we've got today. And you tell me this development's going to solve these problems. Okay? Infrastructure, drainage. I talked to two gentlemen last week, and I thought one of them was going to cry. Honestly, I'm not exaggerating. Traffic, we've been over and over that. We need policemen, we need firemen, heroes in my book, no matter way you turn it. Honorable Mayor, tell me this is going to solve these problems. Just tell me it's going to solve these problems. Fix what's broken first. Okay? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and thinking something's going to change. Ladies and gentlemen, it won't change until you address the existing problems. Thanks.
Mr. Ransom, thank you. Sean Patton, you signed up for citizens' comments. Did you want to speak here, or do you want to wait to citizens' comments? You wait. Okay. Okay. Appreciate that. We will continue this public hearing at our next meeting, or at a time in the future. Not exactly sure when. Let's finish the public hearing, and I'll come to you. Okay. Okay. So we're gonna suspend the public hearing now, and come back to it. Alderman Waters, you've got your light on. We've got an agenda to move on with. We're not going to.
I want to address what was spoke tonight.
Can you wait until we get to business?
No,
And
sir.
I'll call on you first.
No, I want to do it now.
Without objection, we're going out a little bit out of order here. Alderman Waters, go ahead. I got to turn off one mic to turn yours on. There you go. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm really confused why the developer is asking for another deferral. This will be your second deferral this year. As I look at one, and I'll read it to you. The public hearing to hear comments on a request by Vasterland Development for Glenbrook North has been moved. It will be held before the Hendersonville Board of Mayor and Aldermen on May the 8th at 7:30. Please disregard the previous notice, which lists the hearing dated April the 24th. Then I get another email dated April the 13th. I want to give you the latest update on Glenbrook. We spoke with the developer yesterday. That'll be April the 12th. This is May the 8th. We spoke with the developer yesterday, and they are intending to request a deferral at the May 8th meeting in order to have time to make adjustments to the plan depending, get that word, depending on the public hearing, and bring the plan back to consideration to the board at a later date. This is what aggravates me. You knew back April the 12th that you was going to defer it, and you had plenty of time to notify the citizens of this city that you was going to defer it. Planning did. But no, you want to wait till May the 8th when everybody's here, and then you're going to hear what they say, then you want to defer it again. Well, you've heard the citizens this evening, and it was loud and clear as far as I was concerned. No residential development at Glenbrook. Now, I submit to my colleagues on this board, these comments we heard this evening were not all just Ward 3 and Ward 6. We heard from residents across our community. As the old saying goes, it is what it is. All we are doing this evening, if an deferral is granted to your developer, all we'll be doing will be placing more inconvenience and hardship on these people that's come out here tonight to speak. So it's my honest opinion. Let's do our job, board members. Let's vote no on this request. Let's let the chips fall where they may and move forward with this resolution. Thank you, Mayor.
Appreciate it, Alderman Waters. Next on the agenda, we have approval of the April 24th, 2018 meeting minutes. Motion and a second. All those in favor of accepting the minutes from April 24th, 2018, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. I'm going to abstain. By the way, Vice Mayor Frost, I appreciate you standing in for me. Next, we have citizens' comments. A couple different things about citizens' comments compared to a public hearing. The most notable one is that we have a 5-minute time limit. And all comments are being directed to me, the presiding officer, not to the alderman, city staff, or other members of the public. Comments must address issues, not individuals or personalities. Personal attacks shall not be tolerated. Comments may support or oppose particular issues or measures, but the motives of those with different views shall not be questioned or attacked. Malicious comments will not be allowed. Mrs. McMullen, Pin Oak Drive.
Hello again. I'm Betsy McMullen, Pin Oak Drive, Hendersonville. I'll try not to push any strange buttons. And no video. I have two things I would like to talk to you about tonight. One of them, a certain alderman would like to hear, I'm sure. I have been frustrated by, excuse me, in general, the infrastructure in the city, but specifically Drakes Creek Road and Anderson Lane. They're dangerous. I travel that area quite a bit, and I find myself driving in the middle of the road so I don't hit all the blah, 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 blah. And if there's a car coming, I move over and hit the blah, 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 blah. But it's dangerous for people coming both ways. There's no good place on the road to be. And on the side of the road, there's drop-offs. It's just where the road just drops off. So anyway, I implore you to either check out the, this, I know it's a Public Works thing, but to check out the roads that are in terrible, terrible shape. And I know Hunts Lane is one too, but that's probably a whole nother project that I have to wait and see what's going on. But the roads that are in really, really bad shape, let's get them fixed before something really bad happens. The other thing I wanted to mention was in the budget, I read the budget in the paper, and there was nothing in there for the fire and police. And I don't know what went on in the public safety meeting tonight, but I hope we can figure out something to do. We need the fire department and to keep us all safe, and we need the police department to keep us all safe. Trouble is coming up from Nashville, we've all noticed, and the police need to be equipped to handle that. And the fire departments needs to handle the expansion we've done to the huge amount of buildings, whether they're homes or businesses. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Ms. McMullen, thank you. Stephen Puckett, 228 Sanders Ferry Road.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Stephen Puckett, 228 Sanders Ferry Road, Apartment A21, Hendersonville, Tennessee. I'm coming up here to thank the mayor. As everybody knows, he was under the weather last week, and Vice Mayor Frost did a fantastic job running the meeting and demonstrating Senior Week for us. And so, but I do appreciate Mayor Clary reaching out to me after the meeting and to set up a meeting to discuss the things the concerns I had brought up last meeting on behalf of my constituents, as well as just any concerns in general that have come to my attention. And I appreciate that. That's something that the previous mayor didn't get around to, but it's a great courtesy that was wonderful, and hopefully it will bear some fruit. I'm sure that the representatives of General Committee would also be greatly appreciative of the questions you asked in regards of why not just funnel the concerns through the General Committee, in which I know an ad hoc committee on sports issues may come from General Committee as part of their recommendations. Who knows? But I know the issue with an ad hoc committee on the vulnerabilities in the mayor's office it would be more of a Hendersonville Horizon style committee where we gather citizen input of concerns that may go back to the original, the origins of the mayor's office, and so that can help strengthen the office so that everybody knows the rules of the road, and we don't have any unnecessary confrontations where there's confusion of powers or expected boundaries are matched by existing and actual boundaries, so that we don't have to have the mayor asking our city attorney just because the board expects this, is this an actual limitation? And so that it's clear for the mayor, so that the mayor looks good, the board looks good, our city looks good. So thank you so much, and thank you again for reaching out.
Stephen, thank you. Sean Patton, Indian Lake Boulevard.
Get my timer going here.
Okay.
Make sure I keep track of it. Sean Patton, 261 Indian Lake Boulevard. That is the UFC gym. It's my business. I'm a small business owner in Hendersonville. Been open for 2.5 years. We actually won Hendersonville's Small Business of the Year last year. It's the first time it's happened in the history of Hendersonville. The first year a business has been open. So I think we're doing something right. We're changing a lot of lives. But I'm actually here because I think there's a universal truth that some of the business owners have expressed, so I'm here to sort of represent the small business owners of Tennessee to an extent, and that the only constant in life is change. I know right now there's a concern among the business owners I'd like to express to the mayor of some of the anti-growth sentiment. Now, I'm not here to talk specifically about any development. I don't know the last thing about the development. It might be great, might not be, don't know. But in general, I will say there is some genuine concern because like many other business owners moving to the area, I didn't invest the amount of money, the extreme amount of money that it costs to have a business on Indian Lake Boulevard because of where Hendersonville was in 2015 when we opened. I did it because where I saw Hendersonville heading in the area. And sort of this anti-growth sentiment in general, I'm all for responsible growth, I'm all for impact fees, but the statistics don't lie. So if you ask any real estate professional, the average of a healthy, vibrant city of housing inventory is 6.2 months. We're at 0.3. Right, we're way behind. Okay, Sumner County first quarter permits for new homes is down 44% from last year. All right, that doesn't sound like a vibrant, growing city to me. Right, I know it seems like it. The roads are getting bad, but overall, you know, we're trying to attract two key groups, I think, of taxpayers, and that's empty nesters, and was mentioned before about they want a smaller footprint. They don't want 2 acres to mow. Right, young professionals, I can speak to that. That's sort of my demo. And I'll tell you the same thing, right? If you got kids, they work, they're small business owners. The last thing I want to do on Sunday is mow an acre of lawn. I just don't, right? So we have to adjust our perception of what a healthy city looks like with current times and what's actually happening. Because whether we want to or not, people are going to move to Nashville. And this area is going to continue to reap the benefits or suffer the consequences of being at the forefront of that. So from a business owner's perspective, I know that there's at least one development that was on Saundersville Road proposed last year that was turned down. Just that one development had $1.1 million in impact fees for our schools that could be used instead of bonds and higher taxes to pay for schools. That was turned down. $1.3 million to improve Saundersville Road. That was turned down. It's over $1 million to improve roads there. And we're going to continue to need increased funds to pay for the city. I think everyone can agree on those things. And I think that the key thing here is it only comes from 2 places. There's only 2 places that money comes from. It comes from taxpayers or it comes from developers. So we can work hand in hand responsibly with developers to have them come up with adequate impact fees and improve the city and take a proactive approach to our growth, or we can let the growth happen. Because guess what? We don't live in a bubble. We can talk Hendersonville and how dense we want, how big the yards we want in this city. We can talk about that all day. But the reality is, if Gallatin's growing, people are driving through Hendersonville, right? And that's a burden on us. So again, we can have them live, work here instead of having to drive through us and become a burden for our taxpayers, or we can take a more proactive approach. I'm just encouraging us to take a more proactive approach in our decision making. Okay, and I think at the end of the day, I tend to think in a macro scale, and I think it's important to step back from one development or this road or that traffic light. Let's look at the macro environment. Nashville's growing, Gallatin's growing, traffic is growing, people are moving here. Now, we've seen this before in the area, right? I know, Mayor, I know you're a historian, I know you know this. South of town, we've seen that in the past. And what I want to see, and what my vision when I first saw Hendersonville, I've been in the area for over a decade, I said, look, this can be the Brentwood of the North. We've got the city, we've got high-income folks, we've got a great place to live, access to the city about the same distance. This can be the Brentwood of the North. But if we let it bypass us and we just say no more, no more, no more, businesses are going to continue to close down Indian Lake, right? People are going to continue to lose their homes and their businesses. And not only that, but we're going to become the Antioch of the North. The last thing we want, right, is to have growth skip us and go to the surrounding areas, and all of a sudden,
Sean, 30 seconds.
Thank you. And all of a sudden, we're behind the power curve. So anyway, I just want to represent that viewpoint here and let you know that there's a lot of business owners that have this concern. I think it needs to be taken into account. Thank you.
Sean, thank you. Appreciate that. Next, we have committee reports. Finance Committee, Chairman Cunningham.
No report, Mayor.
I appreciate that. General Committee, Chairman Sprouse, or who's our Vice Chairman? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Public Safety Committee, Chairman Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. We had a discussion on ordinance 2018-11 tonight, an ordinance amending the Hendersonville Municipal Code regarding burning of construction debris. We had discussed that in length up here 2 weeks ago. That'll be coming back up with an amendment that'll be stating something very similar to commercial and residential development and building anything that is permitted will be required. Anything that's permitted. So some of the questions on burning driftwood and et cetera, that's still the homeowners. If the homeowner pulls a permit to build anything on their property and they cut down a tree, then they'll fall underneath that. So, ordinance 2018-20, an ordinance amending the Hendersonville Municipal Code, Chapter 6, concerning explosives. We have approximately, I think it was said tonight, 50 permits a year that are pulled for the use of explosives on property preparing to develop. We are now going to charge a permit of $150, or a fee of $150 for those permits. That would just automatically go back into the fire department and be used for a budget item in the fire department. Following that, we had a lengthy discussion regarding blasting fees and seismographs. Those blasting fees that we put will be charged. We'll probably have some money added to it in this budget, and we'll be contracting, it looks like, seismograph companies to take our own readings and report back to us on what those readings are on different blasting around the city and quarries that are located in the area that affect us. We had looked at a resolution approving bonus payment for newly hired certified police officers. This actually will save us money in the long run. We will not be appropriating money, but we'll be able to bonus someone out. I think $1,500 was the fee, Commander Rogan, to $2,000. I'm getting signals over here from other people. $1,500 to $2,000 to get some good certified police officers to save us some money in the long run, protect our community. We had a discussion regarding car video cameras that we need to replace. We'll be applying for a 100% grant for firehouse subs, which is always nice if we can get that because we have no matching money from the city. That'll be for the fire department. That's it.
Appreciate that, Chairman Brown. Chairman Skidmore, Public Works.
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
You're on? Yep, you're on. Oh, now you're off. Oh,
well, it
now
was
you're on.
acting
Don't
weird.
do anything. I won't touch anything. Okay.
It was acting weird tonight anyway, but that's the story of my life. Just three things to bring. I have no official report tonight. We're meeting in 2 weeks at our normal time. Do want to say that, and I appreciate you recognizing the Public Works Department and Public Works Week. They do an exceptional job. So if the community, when you're out and you're seeing them hustling, especially when the heat's coming, man, roll down the window and say thank you, because they really do. Those guys work hard, and we see it every day. I know a lot of people don't get to, because a lot of us in our city, we drive to Nashville and back, and then by the time we get back in the evening, our work in the city is done. But on the days that you see them out, just if the wind is down, say, hey, y'all doing a great job. But if they're not doing a good job, call us and let us know, because we got to know that too. But I appreciate the efforts that they do. Tonight, there was an issue raised, I think, by Ms. McMullen in terms of the roads. We're working on that now, and I appreciate you bringing it out. It's things that this board already and the mayor's office already knows, and we're striving every day to work and make it better for all our constituency, and not just any particular ward, but we're trying as a whole to make the city a lot better when it comes to our road system and our road program, and we're doing some exceptional work there, and I look forward to talking about that in the coming months, because it is budget time. So we're doing great work there. And then also, Mr. Magoo, you mentioned about the red light. I just want to let the board know I'll check with Chip Moore in the morning and see if we can't get a count on that and see if there's something that we can correct that, because if it's holding up the constituency in Ward 6, then it's like a domino effect. If it starts there, it's going to spread, and we want to take care of that. And as far as the bricking, I think Mr. Ransom said something, or I can't remember who it was. I can't. I fail. I can't remember. Or it was Mr. Magoo. I apologize, Wes. I didn't mean that, because I appreciate your comments, but about the brick, we are in the process of getting rid of the bricking there in Glenbrook. So
we're working on it.
We're working on it now with with the bank and that who has the property are on that section of the road, and we're trying to work that out. That's by Kroger's and that portion of the entrance right there at that area. And then also, Mayor, if it would be okay, I'll get with you and nothing bad or anything like that, but the committee would like to meet with you maybe sometime next week so we can get a plan together, and we'd like to talk to you as a committee just in your office, and I'll check with your office, see what times that you're available. All right, thank you very much. That's it.
We'll take care of that.
Sure, thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Chairman Skidmore. Chairman Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No report this evening. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Alderman Petrelli, Planning Commission. Oh, sorry. I thought I turned you on already.
Together now.
Thank you,
There
Mayor.
you go.
So the Planning Commission met on Tuesday, May 1st. Out of that meeting, approved site plans, we have the Crowley business offices, the gatherings, the Redeemer Church. There's going to be a modular addition on the back of the church for their classrooms, and then clubhouse-based subdivision, Anderson Harris property. We are going to be having a workshop May 15th at 6:30 p.m. All of you that are here, I encourage you to come to that. What we will be discussing is the future land use plan for Stop 30 Road Corridor. Will that run from Jones to New Shackle? Saundersville to Goshentown. Okay. So we discussed the future land use plan about 9 months ago, and so we're going to revisit that. So that's going to happen here May 15th at 6:30. And those of you that are engaged and concerned about how our land in Hendersonville is being developed, I greatly encourage you to come. I do want to take some liberty in speaking regarding the folks that have spoken today. I appreciate all the comments that you have made. I take notes so that you might get a phone call from me later. I appreciate to hear both sides. And I would like to clarify some statements that I heard. As a planning commissioner myself, sometimes I am one of the only no votes up there, and I don't vote no as a sentiment of anti-development. I've lived in the city since 1979. I have a degree in architecture, and I was in the architectural construction for over 25 years. If you include my internship as a 13-year-old with Bruce Rainey, much longer. I don't think there's a sentiment of anti-development in Hendersonville, but to put a more positive spin on it is that people are concerned about quality of life issues in Hendersonville. When you can't go 3 miles in under 20 minutes, that's an issue. The decisions that this board and that this community will be making from here on out, again, I say at every opportunity I can, we are at 30% build out. I represent Ward 1. I would love for new businesses to move into Ward 1. We need to redevelop that area. That's where Ward 1 is at right now, revitalization. The decisions that we make from here on out, and it's not anti-development, we need to make decisions that are not broad-based, that they're not on a gentleman's handshake, that they are not about goodwill, not because it meets the profile of future build. We need to make surgical decisions. We are at 30% build out. When I look at your plan, it's beautiful, but there's suggestions that I made in the November meeting, talking specifically about this, that I've never seen an implementation of. So all of that is to say, I encourage everyone to keep an open mind regarding the continued development of our city. Please stay involved. Please let your voices be heard about your concerns. But I encourage everyone, make your decisions surgical at this point. That's how important it is. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Petrelli, thank you. And I moved to quickly earlier, Alderman Woodcock.
Thank you. I can give my Hendersonville Horizon report too.
Let's do, yeah, go ahead and do both.
We're voting on that tonight, so I'll save my comments for then.
Okay.
But I did not anticipate such a quick capital projects report. May I ask a couple questions?
You gonna do that now, or you just want to send them an email, or what do you want to do?
I'd prefer to ask it now.
You okay?
And it's not necessary for Alderman Campbell. It can be for anybody.
Okay.
We've had a lot of discussion about the Saundersville Road redesign and rebuild.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of confusion has taken place in the last few weeks on the citizen side of what actually we were talking about and what is being funded. So could you provide an update on what we actually moved forward with that funding?
Certainly. The TIP, or local interchange connector, I should say, is related to the underpass at Winston Hills. A lot of people confuse that with Saundersville Road because it crosses it and it's part of it. Well, it's two separate issues. We've been working on the underpass for, what, 8 years, 9 years, guys? Before I got here. The Saundersville Road project, though, has come about in the last year or so. Alderman Woodcock was pushing it hard when he was a Capital Projects Committee chairman, and he was wanting to have the road realigned, rebuilt. He's worked with the people from Forest Park. He got out there and had them put some substantial money on the table to have road improvements immediately, like $560,000, I believe it was, upfront money before they even started building the first house to fix some issues with Saundersville Road. And that was a step in the right direction. But to do that long-term work, to rebuild that entire road, you need to have an engineering study. And that's where we have we put $425,000 in our budget last year to fund the engineering study. And that's strictly for Saundersville Road. And what that does, it locates the utilities, looks at the right-of-way, and it helps us lay out the road design and the layout and what will need to be purchased and worked on as it goes through there. That would be engineers doing that work for us, and it came in at $286,000. It was below what we budgeted. So we have some money to set aside. We can either encumber those funds into Saundersville Road, we can put them back in the general fund, or we can use them somewhere else. And I hope that's answered your questions, Darrell, in a nutshell.
Yeah, the first one. The second one, at the last meeting, I believe it was the last Boma meeting, I presented a picture from a public meeting that gave a date for the tunnel to be funded. Has anyone confirmed that date with TDOT?
I know. I haven't, and we might need to get back to you on this.
Yes,
that's fine.
Yeah, I will, because my understanding was they understand that we are working with them on the project,
Right.
so they know we are moving right along with it
Exactly.
at their speed. Here again, all these projects, folks, we are working with the state. It's usually 80-20. We say it's a $10 million project, we're on the hook for $2 million, they're on the hook for $8 million. So, and they tell us how fast we're going to move, so it can. And let me just also say this, related to all these other infrastructure problems everyone was talking about and addressing, and you'd like to have fixed overnight, and I get that. We've been playing catch up here. Just think about a mile of road like Hunts Lane. We start rebuilding that road, or Forest Retreat, or Center Point Road, you're talking millions of dollars. This is not going to be $200,000 we're out there to throw down some asphalt and some more lines. No. It's going to have right-of-way purchases, utilities, everything that's involved in an engineering study, and it's going to take some time. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. If you're lucky, maybe 5 years, the way these projects work, if you're lucky. If they get bumped back, you just start adding, every time it gets bumped back, you just add another year or 2 years. It could be 10 years. Like the Walton Ferry, Old Shackle Island Road realignment, that has been talked about in the city for over 30 years. And it has been bumped back, another bump in the road, because the state had to go out and hire another engineering firm, or had to bring the engineering back in-house because of the firm they had hired first didn't do some things they were supposed to do. They had to pull it back from them. And so now that's been pushed back another year or two. So it's just something to think about when you start talking about funding. And I would like to see where the city, if we could possibly get talking to planning, if we could get a fund set up to where we start putting money into it, impact fees or whatnot, to start having earmarked projects that we know we need to fund to improve these roads and infrastructure, that we have a bigger pot of money sitting there for us to draw from to actually do some of the work ourselves versus going out and going through the state process. It's the only way we're going to speed it up. I hope that helps you there, Darrell.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman Campbell, thank you. Next, we have ordinances and resolutions. We have first reading of ordinance 2018-19. This is an ordinance amending our budget ordinance, which is 2017-23, by appropriating general funds in the amount not to exceed $2.9 million for land acquisition. Alderman Brown. So moved. Second. A motion and a second. All those in favor of accepting first reading of ordinance 2018-19, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. Let's call the roll. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye when Kay calls your name, or no.
Brown. Aye. Campbell.
Aye.
Cunningham.
Yes.
Frisbee.
Aye.
Frost.
No.
Petrelli.
Yes.
Skidmore.
Aye.
Waters.
Yes.
Woodcock. Clary.
Yes. That passes 8-2. Next, we have reading of Resolution 2018-24. This is a resolution to approve a revised final development plan for Glenbrook North. We have to have a motion on this. Alderman Woodcock? Motion to defer for, well, yeah, we need a motion to consider it first. Okay. Is that a second? Okay. Alderman Woodcock?
Motion to defer for 2 weeks.
Motion to defer for 2 weeks. Do I have a second on that? Second. A motion, a second. Alderman Cunningham, do you want to speak on the motion to defer?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Keith, can you come up here for a second? I'll come right back to you. I gave Keith a little bit of heads up on this. Keith, this is a situation where it's very similar to rezoning, and we have to act with reasonable time frame. Is that right?
Yeah, it's, we had to get it to this board within 30 days of when you received it, which is actually back when the general committee had received it.
Okay.
So there's a period that then the board, the Boma has to act upon it and take some form of action. That could be deny it, approve it, could be to defer it to a date. And then a deferral, if you're doing a deferral, in this specific case, the developer's, I guess, asking for the deferral. But if they weren't asking for a deferral, then you would be somewhat limited on how far you could defer it yourself.
I was just trying to
get out of that. Yeah.
No, you're fine. No, you're fine. I just wanted to explain that a little bit. We're good.
Okay.
Okay. Alderman Cunningham, and Keith, you might need to stay close by.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Alderman.
You're on.
Is there a timeline for the deferral if it's requested by the developer?
If it's requested by the developer, it could go on for a period of time as long as the developer was requesting that.
Okay.
It could.
So we could set a timeline now if we wanted to, other than 2 weeks, is that correct?
Well, you could. You may need to talk to legal counsel about how far that is out. But if it was something the developer was agreeable to, that would be one situation. If it was something the developer wasn't agreeable to, then that might be something that legal counsel might need to address on that.
John?
Is that?
Yeah, Mr. Free and I discussed this at great length, and it was determined that this 2-week deferral would be appropriate, would be legal, because the developer had requested it. But if you went a whole lot further than that, it could be considered a denial if you if you failed to act, unless the developer agreed to it.
Yeah. With
the agreement of the developer, this time limit can be extended.
Yes.
And it's I've not heard from the developer about the deferral necessarily, but except the earlier comments. So I think that's enough that's on the record from the earlier comments.
Okay, the reason I'm asking is I have no idea when that impact study is due.
Yeah, I could
There was some mention of that. Keith?
Yeah, I can give an update on that. Where we are with the impact study is we've secured the consultant that's doing that. The consultant's already met with all of our, most of the department heads, and they're in the data processing, so they're getting all the data together. There'll be some meetings over the next few months. Closer toward the end of summer, near August, there'll be another meeting that'll kind of show the different options. And then we're looking at projecting sometime in August, it could be mid to late August, there'll be something to Boma for you all to act upon and have some different choices of how to do the different development impact fees. And then determine at that time, what type of impact fees that you would want, or if you would want impact fees once everything's kind of calculated and we fully understand how all of that works.
Alderman Cunningham, still on the deferral?
Thank you, that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Keith.
Alderman Waters, on the deferral.
Thank you, Mayor. Keith?
Yes. Yes.
Speaking of impact fee, if it comes back in August, September, like you just said, would it have any effect on the developer that we're speaking about tonight as far as how we would vote an impact charge to them? Or are they free to?
Well, through this process, our consultant's going to work with us, and we'll give them different scenarios as we're looking at it, because we have a lot of things, including this particular project has a planned development of the existing commercial, that 186 or 187,000 square foot that's already approved. So we need to determine in some different scenarios who's already vested, and basically, you know, the impact fees won't count against, where they're already vested with the right to do that development. We haven't determined what that is yet for this project or any project, but we're going to define that through this process to determine what is that cutoff line. You know, if you had a preliminary plat, if you had a planned development, or is it a final plat, or is it approved site plan? You know, those are the things that we need to determine. You know, what would be. So we don't have that yet, but through this process, we're going to find out all these different scenarios for this project and other projects that
Would it be beneficial to the board to defer this until that impact fee comes in and we've had an opportunity to look at it?
Yeah, I think the way the development impact fee process works, it's just the day you impact the development impact fee, that's the day. You know, whatever the cutoff is, or if this meets it, or this particular development, if it have to pay development impact fees or not, you know, would be determined by the day that you would have that. If you did something, to address it as appropriate as I can, if you did something where you said we won't approve a development until after the development impact fees are in place, it would be sort of like a moratorium, you know, on development, which some communities have that because of lack of water or different things like that. We don't have that situation here, and we need to look at it we need to be very sensitive legally to it, because even once we enact these impact fees, we've got to be very particular how we create it, and once we turn it on, to make sure that it'll stand up against anybody that would want to take it to court or say it wasn't quite correct, or a developer that might want to say that. So it's something new for us. The city hasn't had development impact fees, so this is something we have not had the experience of doing, so we're learning at this as well.
Appreciate that, Keith. Alderman Woodcock, on the motion to defer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Waters.
Yeah, I want to make sure I'm understanding this, because I don't want people to think we have choices that we actually don't. Because if
Right.
I'm understanding this correctly, if we say we're going to defer this until after the impact fee study is completed, the developer is going to say probably not, and then they're going to put us on a timeline. We'll have to vote within so many days legally, or they'll automatically receive their rezoning request, right?
That's,
It's not up to us if we.
yeah, we got to
do that.
take action. We have to take
Yeah.
some action.
I don't want people to think that we
Yeah.
chose not to wait.
Yeah.
Because
No,
we
you have-
just
you
didn't
have
want to.
Have to take some action.
Thank you.
On it. Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
That helped clear things up a little bit.
Yeah.
All those in favor of deferring this for 2 weeks, please signify by saying aye when Kay calls your name. All those opposed, please say no.
Brown. Campbell.
Aye.
Cunningham.
No.
Frisbee.
We can come.
Frost. Petrelli.
No.
Skidmore. Waters. Woodcock. Clary.
Yes.
7-3.
That passes 7-3 to defer for 2 weeks. Next on our agenda is reading of Resolution 2018-30. This is a resolution approving bonus payments for newly hired certified police officers. Alderman Brown. Have a motion and a second. Steve, you want to talk? Alderman Brown, do you want to speak on this?
I do not.
Okay. Nor does anybody else for that matter. All those in favor of accepting Resolution 2018-30, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. That passed, I'm sorry? Did I hear no? Okay, that passes unanimously. Next, we have reading of Resolution 2018-33. This is a resolution accepting the Hendersonville Horizons report as created by the Hendersonville Horizons Steering Committee. Alderman Woodcock. Motion?
So moved.
Motion and a second. All those in favor of accepting Resolution 2018-30, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. Dr. Robertson, thank you so much.
Thank you, Board.
Appreciate your work and appreciate what you've done as well, Daryl. Next, we have other agenda items. There's a confirmation of the reappointment of Bruce Carter to serve on the Industrial Development Board. I so move.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor of reappointing Bruce Carter to serve on the Industrial Development Board, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no.
Move to adjourn.
Oh, hold on.
Got one more.
That passed unanimously. Next, we have item B. This is confirmation of the appointment of Brian Washko to serve as our Codes Director. I so move. I need a second.
Second.
A second. Alderman Frost.
Real quick, are you going to send us some general information on him?
He's right here. I mean, this is our general information.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Gary, can you come up here? Yeah, you should have, you have his resume. Gary's going to tell you a little bit more.
When did you have a name change, Gary?
We do, hold on.
I'll answer it anything once.
They do have the resume.
I actually gave you all a copy of this evening of an assessment center that we had done for this position a couple of weeks ago. And the thing that I draw your all's attention to really is page 4. There's a small spreadsheet, if you will. And it gives you an idea of the things that we focused on when we put these folks through the process of an assessment center through the day. You had the individual that you're considering was, on all accounts, the highest rated person that we had in the process. And that was based on opinions of folks who are in that field as codes directors and HR directors in other communities that are not too dissimilar from what you all have in Hendersonville. And you all have, I know your HR department has a resume of Mr. Washko. He was, I will tell you personally, he's impressive. He knows his stuff. And we had no problem recommending that he be the person that the mayor interview and try to move forward with. He was that far ahead of everyone else in that group.
Alderman Frost.
Move to approve.
Alderman Petrelli, we've got a motion and a second on the table. Alderman Petrelli?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, in this particular situation, let's just say that the board was not going to vote to approve this person, right?
Sure.
What an awkward position the city is now in because the mayor has made the offer and we get all the information retroactively per se, right? So my question is there a better way to do this? Meaning, before the mayor goes and makes the offer, that we receive the resume and the information prior to that? So
No.
Then why should we even vote on it?
Because it's in your charter that way.
Yeah, but
I'm telling you the truth.
It's
in your charter that
so
way.
I understand that, but
Your charter requires and calls for the mayor to make hiring, firing decisions, period. He comes to you, he has to get your consent to hire the person that he wants to do. Now, you can deny that consent, but it's his job to get to that person that he wants, and that person's willing to come here.
Well, I guess what my concern is to have people's personal lives out in the open.
This is public sector work in the state of Tennessee. By virtue of the fact that you submit a resume, anybody can view anybody's resume. It doesn't matter. That's a gamble, that's a risk that you take in this business, period.
Regardless, I think there's a better way it could be done. It's a little bit weird to get the information, and then do we have questions when it really means nothing?
Welcome to local government.
Right. So how do we bridge the gap of inefficiencies and charters? It's not, again,
Well,
it's not 1959 anymore. It's 2018. So how do
and-
we strengthen the skills that we have for decision making up here? Or it's just a rhetorical vote of display is what it is.
Well, if it's authorizing the mayor to make a decision,
Sure.
authorizing his decision to stand. That's in essence, that's what your charter calls for.
Thank you.
Alderman Brown.
Just a question, not about the candidate or about the charter or anything else. On these scores are weighted. What's the top level there?
3.0.
3.0. Okay. All right. Thank you.
All those in favor of confirming Brian Washko as our next codes director, something we haven't done in 46 years, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. That passed unanimously. Vice Mayor Frost. Motion?
Let's go.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
And a second. All in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That passes. All opposed, please say no. That passed unanimously. Thank you all. Finish meeting.
Wow.